fundraisers, I'm Don Lego. It's time to buckle up for a new episode of Raise Nation Radio, the one and only podcast made to inspire fundraisers like you to continue making impact in our communities, building better tomorrows, and exchanging ideas. So whether you're a trailblazer or seasoned pro, you'll pick up the trends that transform your fundraising. And together we'll dive into lively conversations and chat with industry-leading fundraisers and thought leaders to explore hot-button issues and innovative ideas. So stay with us for the next 30 minutes while we inspire you to embrace the future of fundraising. All right, let's get going. Welcome back to Raise Nation Radio. If you've been with us before, thank you for making the show just so popular. We broadcast on 10 different podcast channels. We're on demand at onecause.com. We're live at the Raise Conference. We're everywhere. So just follow the channel that's your favorite. So you can follow all of our episodes. If you're new, welcome. We have something special in store for you, and we hope you become part of our little family here at Raise Nation. So I want to jump in and introduce our guest, who really need no introduction. It's just a very popular name in the fundraising space. I'm sure you've heard of both of them. I have two guests today. It is a dynamic duo, dare I say a husband and wife team from Inspire Hearts Fundraising. We have the two and only, I should say, Bobby D and Erin with us today. We're going to talk about events and what happens on the stage and how to be impactful and eventful and all that good stuff. We just saw you guys not that long ago at the Raise Conference in Nashville. Thanks for joining. But Bobby D, Erin, welcome to Raise Nation Radio.
Yay, we're here.
Hey.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so good to see you again in person relatively, here as best as we can on the radio.
Yeah. On the Zoom waves, which is what we use to record our shows. So I think the whole world or the whole nonprofit sector know you guys already. You're such a big influence in our space and do such a wonderful job from the stage and off the stage. But we might have a couple people that maybe haven't met you yet. So you go with for the big introduction. We'll do maybe ladies first and start with Erin. Why don't you just introduce yourself, what you do for the nonprofit community and anything you want to share personally, and then we'll go over to Bobby.
FYI, Erin always goes first.
Of course.
Sure.
I knew that.
You wish. So super quick, Erin, I'm a third generation auctioneer. So I got into this industry kind of before it was an industry. My mom was an auctioneer, one of the first female auctioneers, one of those top starters, those trailblazers. And I didn't know it was not a women's industry. I just didn't know. So she just showed up every time. My grandfather was an auctioneer. He sent her to auction school, said, go ahead. She's an international champion auctioneer, but my mom sold heavy machinery and sort of got started the way most do. When you graduate auction school, they tell you to get your name out in the community to go practice and do some free fundraisers. And so they were getting, they'd be like, hey, you have a nice dinner, you bring your wife out, you have some drinks, you get up on stage, sell a few items and leave. It's a big party. And that was the old stance back in the 80s, I would say. And I know it makes cringe, right? Like we're all trying not to cringe.
In the 80s.
But so here I am. My mom's like, no, we got to do better than that. My mom started working with some different nonprofits. There were about two other full-time fundraising auctioneers. And so they would all meet. And I tell you, the auction industry was like, you're not real auctioneers doing that. Like it was a really big turnaround for the industry to accept that this was a real thing. It was a big turnaround for fundraisers to realize that they needed to hire auctioneers, that there were people that would specialize in this. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't really a thing when my mom would do it. She'd get dressed up in her sequin dresses and spent a lot of time working with these groups. And I would go sell raffle tickets or just be there with her. She was a single mom. So sometimes, got to take a kid to work day. And I obviously wanted nothing to do with the auction industry because my mom sold heavy machinery. And I was like, I don't get it. That's not my jam. That's not who I am. But I went to college. I went for liberal arts. I went for women's studies. I was a Black studies minor. I was art history minor. And I was a women's studies major. And so I was working in the nonprofit world. I wanted to work on human equity. I believed in human rights. It was a very big passion for me. So when I graduated college, mom's like, what are you going to do now? And I was like, I'm ready. And she's like, ready for what? And I was like, auction school. She was like, what you hate.
Is there
what
an
I
auction
do.
school? Is there an auction school?
Yes, there are several. Actually, Bobby's been an instructor at one of them, Western College.
3 of them.
Yeah, there's several. They're in the Midwest usually. There's one in Texas. There's one in Montana. I went to one in Iowa.
Ohio.
Oh, yes. And so essentially you'll learn how to do that chant, the fast.
$35, $50 bill.
I can't do it. I've tried. It's so embarrassing.
75 and 75 and 80. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that's like what they teach you. They teach you to count, because when you're on stage as an auctioneer, you can't think about what you're saying, what's happening. You need to be doing the psychology. You need to be reading your bidders, kind of the way, you can talk to a bartender and say, hey, do you know John? They'll be like, no, what does John drink? And I know everything about John based on his drink. The auctioneer knows everything about the style of who is bidding, what their style is, their energy, and things like that. So anyway, long story short, I decided I wanted to do nonprofit work, and I wanted to be an auctioneer that specialized in nonprofits, but that was not a thing when I started. Again, there were only, maybe by the time I started, maybe 5 in the country that were doing this full time. Mom's like, you can't make a career doing that. You can't do that. And I was like, watch me. And so here we are now, about 20 years later, having 3 auction companies and an auction husband and an auction life, but mainly and everything started from the auction industry, transferred into the nonprofit sector, realized that the energy needed to be put onto the transformational gifts happening at events, not the transactional ones.
We're going to dive deep into that. But first, Bobby, let's hear about you.
Well, I did also want to remind everybody that now you have an auction son. That's a great story we can save for later. Well, yes, Bobby D's my name. I am a second generation auctioneer. My mom, my stepdad, my 2 brothers are all auctioneers as well. I grew up on the West Coast and, created a business in 2017. It was like, okay, I'm going to dive full time into this with call to auction and be able to add a new energy and engagement within fundraising events. But where brought me to that point is I was an auto auctioneer for, probably 15 years prior to that.
I did not know that.
You did not? Yeah. So that's where I got my start in the auto auction world. And then 2015 is when I won the World Automobile Auctioneer Championships.
Automobile Auction Champions. You also, is that the year that you won the U.S. champion?
Oh, yes. The U.S. bid calling champion as well. And then
attaboy.
And then in the ICE, I got 3rd. So.
Oh.
So as I was doing this, I was, full on, like almost every day doing an auto auction. And then one day I woke up and I was like, you know what? I really want to make a huge impact in the world. And I'm not sure if I'm doing it in this position where I'm at right now. And throughout my entire auction career, I've always helped nonprofits and private schools raise money and whatnot. And then I had the light bulb go off one day. I was like, okay, I want to do that professionally. I want to do that all the time. So then from there, I started transitioning out of auto auctions. And then I think it was like November of 2016, I made the jump. 2017, hopped in full time. And now
the biggest thing I would say is that sorry to interrupt, but you couldn't consult. You couldn't do the behind the scenes work because I
was busy at the auto auction that I couldn't have conversations like this at, 11:45 on a Wednesday afternoon. So I knew that there was a huge need out there. There wasn't a lot of auctioneers in my market. So I was able to grow this company and come at it from a much more professional development focused, kind of point. And now I'm super lucky that I've got a bunch of auctioneers that are working underneath me as mentees, one in Phoenix, one in Tempe, and in various others around the nation that we're able to help nonprofits raise as much money as they can wherever they are for pretty much whatever their budget is. We've got a solution for them. So it's pretty neat to have that. And then real quick, Erin and I, we joined teams in 2018 and created Inspire Hearts Fundraising, which is the only special appeal firm in the entire nation that we focus 100% of the events on special appeals and live appeals and are the fundraising MCs and consultants. It's a much higher level service that we provide. And yeah, so there we are.
Well, wait, I want to dive into that, what you just said there at the tail end. But before I do you guys hold like the Guinness record of the most auctioneers in one family? I think
we should check that out.
I think you should.
The bookers.
Maybe the bookers do. Yeah, they maybe win.
They have a lot of siblings.
And they breed a lot of auctioneers.
They have a lot of tall auctioneers.
And they're in Ohio. So there's a lot there. Actually, we just made a video on our TikTok channel. A couple of auctioneers follow us that we got to celebrate Thanksgiving and kind of give a behind the scenes of what it's like at a auctioneer.
We pass the potatoes really fast.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to check that out. That's got to be pretty
What's really neat
cool
about our families is that we have 2 mothers that are auctioneers.
Yeah.
That's unique.
It's revolutionary.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the chanting that goes on like at Thanksgiving.
We got together, we didn't realize that his mom actually had competed in an auction competition that my mom had been the reigning champion of. And my mom put her medal around his mother's neck.
And they didn't.
And they didn't know each other. It wasn't 10 years later, 15 years later until we met.
It was meant to be. It was just meant to be. Stars were aligned.
We found love on the auction block.
All right. So I want to go back to Inspire Hearts fundraising. That was, you joined forces in a number of different ways to form Inspire Hearts fundraising. But Bobby, what did you say? It is the only, fill in the blank and let's expand on that a little.
You're the only special appeal, paddle raise, fund the need,
the ask, the big ask. So at a gala, so we realized that there was a big problem, and I kind of said to Bobby, I was like, "Look, I'm finding there's a problem here. We're focusing so much on, like we said, the auction. No, we're focusing so much on the auction, silent auction, raffles, items. Again, back to that transactional giving, and it wasn't the transformational giving we were hearing talked about in the nonprofit sector. It wasn't the transformational giving we were feeling in our communities. And we realized that there was a huge opportunity here. Now, this was happening. A lot of people would say, kind of when I started, it was like after the auction, people have leftover money.
Right.
And that's not actually what we found out is the reality. It's not leftover money. It's very intentionally spent money. And we said, we really want to spend time focusing on that. But how do we do that? Because we have these auction companies and everybody wants to know what's the order of the auction, the description of the auction. We spent a lot of time talking about items. We wanted to talk just about the appeal, just about this moment at the gala where we come together as a community, where we make an ask, we tell a story, and we just share that moment. And we ask for just a heart gift.
This is an opportunity to engage with the organization. I like to call that moment the golden goosebump moment, where everyone's on the edge of their seats and they're like, okay, what can we do? And then there's professionals like Erin and I that are there to make that big ask and say, friends, all right, now's that time to give at that level that's inspirational for you, that's motivational for you, and raise that paddle or make that donation or make that gift or whatever.
It's a radio show. Bobby's holding up.
We're also live on Instagram too.
He's so proud of himself.
You guys crack me up. I think that's probably why you have such great stage appeal, because you just have such a great. Do you ever share the stage together?
Yes.
Or are you? Yes,
absolutely. We do. And we were actually able just 2 weeks ago, able to share the stage for a dear client of ours in New York City, friends of Karen. And we were the dynamic duo with Inspire Hearts. And we helped them raise a record amount of money in their paddle raise. And it was super fun. It was great.
It's definitely, we have some groups that just want one, some groups that want two. I've started focusing a lot more on MC work. Bobby does some MC work also. So sometimes one of us will MC, one of us will do the fundraising. Sometimes if we can be together, it's our favorite. Yeah. But oftentimes we're booked on the same night and we can't have that opportunity. So we do have some clients that will hire both of us independently together, if that makes sense.
Well, the couple.
Yeah.
As a couple.
Well, I've seen the two of you together. I mean, you really are great together. I mean, you just play off of each other, and it's just magical. I think when you're magical individually, but you're definitely a different level, when you're together. So I want to touch on that a little bit. I'm sorry, Erin?
It keeps the audience engaged.
Yeah, that's exactly what you do. You're great. You're masters at it. So I do want to touch on that, and let's give a little advice to our audience, because I think it's so, so, so important to look for the right stage personalities, whether it's MCs or auctioneers, that's going to drive those memorable experiences and make it transformative and everything that you were talking about, Erin. But sometimes we tend to go with the board member or the radio personality or a celebrity. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're really creating the right strategy and professionalism. So if we can give a little advice to our audience, why is it so important to hire a professional auctioneer, and what to look for when you're creating your stage personalities that's really important? I know those are hard questions, but I know if anybody can answer it, it's the two of you.
Yeah.
Well, I think, Erin, you've got the best example for this. There's a particular auctioneer celebrity.
No, so I would say the most important thing, I'm sorry to interrupt you, is that you have to find somebody that fits your group.
That's key.
That is the number one thing.
So
it is
important.
not one person fits all. Bobby and I are not perfect for all groups. In fact, we have groups where we're talking with them and I'll be the auctioneer on it. And I'm saying, you know what? Really, Bobby's a better fit for you for this event. You have to be really mindful of what the audience expectations are, how they act in a room, how they feel, why they're there, what their personality is,
what their culture is,
what the flow of the night is. There's so many things that come into effect. The same way you wouldn't serve the same meal to everybody.
With the same chef.
Right. Each personality is so different. There are people out there that are magicians. There are comedians. There are, and their stage personalities. I'm not, sometimes they're professional.
Comedians.
There's like lots of comedians that are now professional auctioneers. And so if that works for your group, then you need to go with that. So I'm going to tell my funny story because it makes the most sense. We're in New York. Bobby travels and most of his events are Arizona. And so he's from Arizona.
Coast to coast.
But in New York, for me, this is my home is the tri-state area. I really love this. This is where I speak the best. Perfect. They understand me. I understand them.
Well, New Yorkers do have their language, their own. It's a little.
Absolutely. We do.
We do.
We have our own language here. Mm-hmm.
And there's a group I was working with and they said, listen, we're talking about this other group and they're cowboys. And I was like, okay, do you think that'll work for your group? And they're like, no. And I was like, well, tell me how many cowboys you know in New York. They're like, one, and he's naked. The naked cowboy in Times Square is the only, unless he's that guy, is not going to fit your New York
market. They were chatting with the cowboy auctioneers or whatever
they want. And I get where they were coming from because these guys are awesome. They're fantastic. Honestly, I can't compete with them in Texas because they are what's perfect there.
Part of the culture.
Are they perfect in New York? No, just because they're perfect in one area. And I'm not saying I'm perfect in Texas. I'm a New Yorker. Is that going to be received well? So I think what's important is not just their professionalism. And Bobby, I think you can touch on why the professionalism is important, but there's also making sure it fits you culturally. It's appropriate. I will tell you, I just lost a female empowerment event that I'm incredibly close to a male auctioneer. And there is a lot of upset within the industry, within the organization because of that. There's a lot of reasons that they need to do this, and I understand where they're coming from. And I'm still a donor for them. I love them tremendously. Yes. It's not them, but they're trying something that they need to try to have some male inclusion, and that's where their focus is this year. So, hey, let's try things out. It's not personal to me. As long as they're looking at the greater good of the event, that's what's important.
Sometimes I get to change the music.
Yeah.
But when they change the music, we want organizations, especially individuals, that are the ones that make the decisions of who they're having as their auctioneer, as their fundraiser, or the person holding the microphone, or really it comes down to the person that holds the entire event and the future of the organization in their hand. And by being a professional that's experienced and have many, many years of experience, kind of like Erin and I do, we have handled all of the different situations that are out there. Mm-hmm. The drunk person out in the audience, somebody, maybe the video not playing, or the honoree speaking too long,
or somebody dies.
It has happened, but so we've been through many situations.
Oh my God. How tragic.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Right. But if you're having a major issue that happens, you want somebody that's been through the ringer that can save your butt.
Yeah, that's been there, and they have that professional attitude at this and are getting paid and are, have that viable interest within that. And a lot of times a free auctioneer, they're getting paid in drinks and food.
Well, like I said in the beginning.
Yeah. So then they're
practicing.
Yeah, they're practicing, or they're not vested as much as we are. And then we really pride ourselves and our team on really taking that next step as professional fundraisers and understanding where the event fits within that full fundraising strategy for an organization. And you said it the best, Dawn, earlier is, when they look at events strategically, they're able to have some amazing things happen, beyond that. I mean, matchmaking, there's donor development, there's donor stewardship that's within that, donor identification that comes from there, and then the ability to showcase sponsor relationships. There's so many elements that are built within that when we dive quite a bit deeper. And for people like Erin and myself, and there's a lot of other professionals out there in the country that do dive that deep and have that understanding and know that there's goals at the event that are way beyond just the dollars that they're raising. Because we could raise $350,000 on the night of the event, but it's those donors in the room that are going to affect the bottom line at the end of the year. And that 350 could turn into 3 million, could turn into 30 million if those relationships are fostered effectively.
Yeah. I think
a mistake could be costly if what I'm hearing is accountability, right? If you hire the local radio personality, which he may be a great supporter and may deserve to be on the stage.
And
sure,
could be
we're
the
not
MC.
saying that, but we're saying that both of you together, separately, you're going to be accountable for all the things because the event is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of the story.
Yes.
And if you forget a corporate sponsor, for example, if you're professional and accountable, wait a minute, my checklist isn't complete. I can't step off the stage until that corporate sponsor is thanked. I don't know if a local politician or a local radio personality, not that they're not accountable, but they just don't have that level of, I don't want to say professionalism, but they're just not crossing all those T's and dotting all their I's. They're maybe more of an entertainment value. So what I'm hearing is accountability to get all the things done.
Right. They just don't know what they don't know.
Well,
right. Yeah.
It's a job, right? And so this is the big difference. It's our career, it's our job, it's our livelihood,
our reputation.
We vest our free time educating ourselves. We go to school for this. We study for this the same way a meteorologist studies for their job.
We're part of professional associations to continue to develop those relationships and enhance those skills.
Like we even said about going to auction school, when we're up there, there's a lot of psychology that's happening. There's a lot of things that are happening while we're on stage that goes above and beyond just what looks like a pretty 15 minutes, right? Like I get that comment all the time. Oh, it's just 15 minutes. It's really not. It's hours and hours of prep work. It's prepared. It's what's happening after we get off stage. I get donations after I'm off stage for the organizations that go exceedingly big. I get board members to join. Mm-hmm. So what are the goals? We're working with them bigger. And the other thing I would say is that everybody's getting paid somehow.
Right.
Nobody does anything for free. So why are they doing it? If it's for free, then they're doing it for the accolades. They're doing it for the love. They're doing it for the free drinks. They're doing it for the support. They're doing it to get their name in the community. There is always an end goal for everyone to do everything. Mm-hmm. So why not know, hey, the end goal is this, check. Now I can use them however I want, not wondering what is that person's ulterior motive?
Risk is another big thing too. It's like, are you willing to risk those big dollars on that night of? You can really mitigate your risk by hiring a professional that has done that dozens, hundreds, thousands of times, that they have that experience within that. And
you can tell them what to do, what you want them to do, right?
Right. And not only that, but you could collaborate. I was just going to say that a nonprofit can tell you exactly what they want with no hard feelings. Right. And you can come back and say, well, I'd like to recommend this. And then you have some really good collaboration. And I love the fact that there's so much education that goes behind being a good charity benefit auctioneer. But I also love something special about the two of you. You also like to educate the nonprofit community. You're constantly consulting out there. I remember being on a panel with you guys in New York a couple of years ago. That's where I first met you face to face. And you were on a panel. You do just as much work to help educate the nonprofit community. I know, Bobby, you and I and our teams are talking about a workshop in the new year, which is super exciting, but you're always trying to help the nonprofit world seek better opportunities to increase their impact. So let's talk about that. You're always so busy. What are you doing in that area?
So
talk about Raise.
Huh?
Like Raise, how we were
like Raise,
right?
Prep work. Mm-hmm.
Which
all
is epic.
Learning at Raise, right? Like Bobby and I go to learn as much as we go to help others, we really go to learn so that we can be better and share that information.
Yeah, and that's what we're really about, is sharing that information. Shameless plug here. We do have a podcast as well. Check us out everywhere podcasts are, called Heart of the Gala. And all this information and these ideas and these philosophies that we have about fundraising, we share there. And we also bring in industry experts to hear, their experiences and their ideas within that. And we've been putting, I think we're 22 episodes this year. We're moving into year 2 here in 24, and we're really excited. We got some great guests that are coming up, but it's really about that education. And then in 24, I don't even know if you know about this, but we're creating a monthly webinar series talking specifically about the paddle raise and talking specifically about that live ask at the event, because there are so many questions that come out there. And it's not just nonprofit professionals, it's also fundraising professionals that want to know how to do it better. So we can't just keep our knowledge in here. We got to get it out here.
Okay.
So what's the name of the podcast again?
Heart of the Gala.
Heart of the Gala.
Inspire hearts.
We're going to get all of these links, and we'll put them in the show notes if that's okay with you. Yes. All of these resources and links to the podcast and to your website. We'll get it all out there in the show notes.
So the thing you got to know about Bobby, and I will say he does this more than me. He loves to teach people.
Yes, I do.
He wants to share his information. If you gave him an opportunity. So if anybody's listening to this and they want to study, they want to consult.
They need a speaker at a conference.
Anything where Bobby can help share his information. He feels he has too much information. He wants to share it endlessly. He teaches at auction schools. He mentors people. He loves doing that. It's, just part of his DNA. Like, he should have been a professor, but I guess you kind of are.
I kind of am.
You love sharing. I know.
Thank you.
So where did Bobby D come from? Where did we get the stage name Bobby D? It was
early on in my career that I finally decided that I wanted to be an auctioneer, because I never wanted to be an auctioneer. And D is actually, I'm going to kind of build names here, is my tax name. My dad's name and my tax name is the first initial starts with a D. And when you're going to elementary school in like 1997, then there's the show called Dennis the Menace on cartoons all the time. And guess what you get called when you're in 3rd grade? Dennis all the time. So anyways, move schools. My mom's like, you don't have to be Dennis anymore. Let's help you find who you really are. And let's, you pick your name. And I'm like, oh, I like Bobby. Bobby's a good name. So then I pick that. And then I'm an auctioneer. And I'm like, well, you know what? Bobby D's a good auctioneer name. And now when everybody asks me
I don't know you as anything else. It's just Bobby D.
Who he is.
Yeah. Everybody asks what the D's stands for. And I will say it's for donations or dollars.
Of course it is.
Or
there you
go.
Oh my God, that's so funny. All right, so let's talk about some success stories that you've seen, and maybe share the success and why you think it was successful. For people who are listening, they want to know what's going on out there and how they can do it too. So let's share some success stories and the why.
Yeah, we're here at the end of the season, and we're here in December recording this, and looking back on 2023, like 60% of our events that we did were paddle raise only, and with that, there were organizations that were looking to evolve beyond just what they've had before. Kind of the standard old gala. They're like, we want something different, or they wanted a shorter style of fundraising event. So we've really perfected the 90-minute anti-gala, where it's quite a bit different. And in there is the paddle raise only live ask, however it is happening in there. So I would say that would be one of the biggest successes that we're seeing, is that we are educating that there is more to play within events. There is that transformation that's available. So having those conversations kind of been my success. Erin, I know you've kind of got one at the tip top of your head.
I don't. Which one is on the tip top of my head?
The $1 million.
Oh, my $1 million gala?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a tip top one. So it's funny. I mean, I'm just trying to think about this year's galas. There's been a lot of different changes. Like Bobby mentioned, I would say most of my events are appeal only. I've kind of personally, this is a personal share, but I've sort of been looking at how to be more of a motivational speaker during that moment. It's not just about the money, it's more motivation in the organization. And so more keynote speaking at an event interrelated with the ask.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. It's my superpower. I will be very honest. I would say the funnest part of that is knowing the appropriate amount of time, maybe this goes back to hiring a professional, knowing the appropriate amount of time to ask for money, how long you have to continue asking. I'm actually going to share that story. I think it's a little bit more important. So one time I got up and I'm very comfortable. Everybody asks about the awkward silence. I don't have it. It's not in my DNA. Never had it. Yeah. Like I'm good. Give me the awkward and I'll just make it fun. So I have asked for all sorts of things. And I did go off the notes for an event and asked if I'd get anybody at $1 million and lots of giggles. And then I said, well, somebody shout something out. Somebody shouted out 100,000, which was phenomenal. The gala was, our highest gift we expected was 25,000. So it was just an amazing, moment. And then the next person gave 42,000. So I like to encourage people in a room to give at their own levels. This is just my antics and I like to play around and I get people to shout things out. So we always have our preset numbers in an ask, where we're going to ask, who we're going to ask, what the levels are going to be. But I like to encourage a room to get vocal with me to keep the energy up.
It's a two-way conversation. It's not just you presenting or asking. It's the audience. I get that
for sure. Yeah.
We've recently started to include some music during that moment, which has been really fun. I had an event recently. They started playing We Are Family during my ask. Family, as I'm like, not during the powerful moment of the mission, but more at, the $250 level where everybody's cheering and giving. And it really is a lot of inclusion. Anyway, back to my other story. I did have somebody, I got down to 42,000 and I said, all right, is there anybody else? I'm about to start my real ask at 25. And somebody raised their hand and said, I'll do $1 million.
No.
Yep. Out of nowhere. We didn't know that she had just inherited a lot of money. And she said that meantime, the development team is like running and swarming her. And she said, if I hadn't asked, she wouldn't have known it was an opportunity. And she was excited.
Wow.
So yeah, that was amazing. But this
is the best part.
We hear that as a community, we're like, that's amazing. But here's the trouble with that. I haven't started asking the room for money yet. We've just passed their goals, surpassed everything. I will say this is an opportunity that I was glad we didn't have one of the thermometers up there because it would have stopped our giving. But what I did is I'm walking back to the stage after hugging her and thanking her. Development team's talking to her. And in my head, I'm going, pivot.
Because nobody's going to want to give.
Nobody's going to want to give. What do I do? So I turned on my heels and I looked her in the face. And now nobody can really hear what she's saying, right? Because there's a huge audience of people. And I looked at her in the face and I said, do you want me to stop?
Stop fundraising?
I just looked at her. I was like, do you want me to stop? And she was like, well, no, right? Like, of course not. She doesn't want me to stop. She wants us to raise more money. And I was like, she's challenging us. She wants us to match her. Let's see what this room can do.
Brilliant, Erin. Oh, I was trying to figure out. And that's why I'm not an auctioneer. Okay, what did Erin do? How did she handle it? And you decided that in a split second?
Split second. It saved because I will tell you that's why you hire a professional. It's like those moments of, because how do you come back? Like, how am I going to give $100 when she gave $1 million? That doesn't feel good.
So I challenged the audience to do another $1 million.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's that impromptu-ness that, again, that professional brings, but also somebody like Erin who has we call it the spidey sense of being able to truly read the energy in a room and what's happening and being so self-aware and of the influence that you have on the direction of an event. And you're always aiming towards what's going to be best for the client and not just.
It was the high heels, though. I think if you didn't have high heels on, you wouldn't have thought that.
My high heels have made more money for nonprofits than anything else I've ever done.
I get that. I so get that, Erin.
It is 100% true. It's the funniest thing. I have gotten people to give in the appeal just because they want to talk to me about my shoes.
Yeah. Put your high heels on and drive impact. Sorry, Bobby, but
And
I got to have good shoes too.
Well, and if I'm pitching with a client, if I'm talking to a client, I will tell a client the same thing. My saying is the higher the heels, the more they spend.
Yeah.
I know, it's true.
Because of an event, people are dressed up in their high heels versus their flip-flops. They're going to spend more money.
I know. I think it's a true thing. Yeah, I'm not debating that at all. All right. I think we have time for one more question, and I'd be remiss to ask about technology at events, right? Pro, I'm going to give you two choices, pro or pro. No kidding.
Yeah, no, Don, I'll be 100%. I'll be 100% honest with you. It's one of the things that in 24 is we were requiring with the organizations that we're working with. A lot of times they're trying to save money and try to DIY it. And we're just going to be like, no, you have to hire a professional technology team that has that tech behind them, that they can get all of the information. We can do the most effective and efficient fundraising on the night of, but then having that follow-up information immediately and able to accept that payment quickly. And it's really about friction. And by working with a tech company like OneCause, you are able to make that friction so much less. And it's really about donor and guest experience at the gala. And that's a big component of it. I mean, you don't go to a 5-star restaurant and then you hand them your Black card and then they come back and they're like, well, no, this doesn't work, or we're just going to type in the numbers or whatever. No, they don't do that. But if you have a professional technology team, then it just makes it so much easier to get the info and to get the money. That's key. Get the money.
Because experience is all the way around, right? The fundraising event is not the means to an end. It's the means to the beginning, and cultivating all of those guests into lifelong, donors. And we know that many attendees got their tickets from a boss or a friend and might not have alignment coming in, but we sure do want them to have alignment coming out. And it's part of that experience. So what you deliver on the stage, what OneCause delivers in tech, and what we all deliver together is super important to make it transformative.
It's a vendor collaboration. I love that.
I'm going to pop in real quick and say that we will, if you are listening on the podcast and you call us and you are working with OneCause, we'll give you a discount because we know that you are doing better and your event
doing
will
it right.
Good.
We're going to drop that in the show notes. I'm going to put it in writing.
Do it.
Okay.
They heard you in the podcast, and their partner with OneCause will give them a discount this year because we think it's that important. When my mom first started, she would bring her own computer program because there was no OneCause, and she would set up her own system to try to do this. And we have seen the growth that has happened and the organization. And I got to tell you, I want people to spend money and feel good spending money, and they can't do that if you're using a knuckle buster.
Yeah.
Remember those things?
It's so funny. We need to close this episode with a little we are family. I can't sing. Somebody else sing.
Get those paddles up in the air.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. We are family.
And we're going to people that care.
Oh my God. See how fast you are.
Oh my gosh. Too much.
Right in the fields.
Too much.
I'm going to ask the Raise committee if we can get on stage and the three of us do a little trio there. Please. I'm sure we'll be I
think that would be good.
I can't wait to be there again. We had so much fun.
Yeah. And you guess what, Erin? You know where they are in 24?
No.
Back in Nashville.
Oh, good.
Love it.
Yeah.
So good.
You have to see it.
I bought shorts with fringe. I couldn't get a jacket, but I bought the shorts.
I know they sold out of that cool jacket.
I think next year we need to auction. I
want to sell one. We're going to auction one off next year at Raise. Be there, be square.
Well, I'm sure I'm going to see you before then, Bobby. We have some things to do in New York and some workshops and all that fun stuff. So you promised me you'll stick around, and as we need you, we'll get you on the podcast or wherever we need you. It's always such a pleasure. You guys I'm going to be singing We Are Family all day today.
Yeah.
See how you inspire me?
Thanks for having us. You've got to be a guest on our podcast, and we can dive way deeper and hear your perspective from fundraising from the technology point of view. I think that would be solid.
I'd love to join you, and I'm going to get all those links on our show notes too. Yeah, sounds like a plan. Well, fearless fundraisers, that's about all we have time for today. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's Raise Nation topic. Your daily dose of fundraising inspiration. Tune in for a new episode release every Thursday at 12:30 p.m. That's Thursday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. But in the meantime, listen to all the episodes on Raise Nation Radio. There's about 115 of them. And as I mentioned earlier, follow your favorite channel because we're everywhere. And you can get notifications about our new guests and new episodes. I would like to thank our sponsor, OneCause, for making this episode possible. OneCause is driving the future of fundraising with easy-to-use digital fundraising solutions that help nonprofits connect with donors. Check it out, onecause.com. And please visit the resource tab on the homepage. There is a broad catalog of content, all free, that hopefully you'll find helpful. A huge shout out and thanks to my guest, Erin and Bobby D from Inspire Hearts Fundraising, just for being with us today, spending so much fun time and authentic voice. Thank you so much. I so enjoyed our conversation, but I have to ask, because we ask all of our guests, when we're going to go same order, Erin then Bobby D, any last words of inspiration?
Inspiration. There's a quote that says, "But what if I fall?" And it's,
but darling,
I fly? But
yes.
Darling, what if you fly?
I love that. Do you know, honest to God, it is sitting about 5 feet from me on a little plaque in my office.
It's in mine too. It's in my room. It's in my office.
Yep. So yeah, I love that quote. One of my favorites. Okay, Bobby D, you. Last words of
I'm just going to invite the audience to aspire to inspire. You have a big opportunity in front of you, and it's okay to take a little bit of a risk, and it's okay to think bigger and bolder, because the bigger and bolder that you think and the actions you take, the bigger impact you make in the world. So aspire to inspire. Aspire
to inspire. And there you go. Inspire Hearts Fundraising. It all ties together. Well, thank you again so much. I really appreciate you spending some time with me today.
Thank you for having us.
We'll see you soon. Happy New Year. Love you guys too. That's a wrap. Until next time, I'm Dawn Lego. This is Raise Nation Radio. You stay fearless out there.